Faster updates, platoons, tweaks to operations, faster UI, and the Russians. Battlefield 1 is about to get a lot more content in the near future. In a news post that's just gone live on the website, Alex Grondal, he's the executive producer on Battlefield 1, has outed a few interesting changes that will be making their way into the game very soon. But first of all, let's look at those juicy Russian DLC images. Now, of course, this is just concept art, but it gives us a good indication for the map locations and the general tone of the DLC. This first image here shows the frozen archipelago that was mentioned in the description for the DLC. This is part of Operation Albion, which was a German land and naval operation that took place during World War I, and it was to invade and occupy the West Estonian archipelago, which was part of the Russian Empire. Now, we can see from the image that there should be some naval warfare here. That's a given considering the setting, not just with the boats down here at the front, but there's also a battleship out to sea in the distance. Perhaps the Dreadnought could make an appearance here. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Clearly the standout feature, however, is the gigantic cannon or fortress gun in the foreground. That doesn't look like anything we've seen so far in Battlefield 1. We do have fortress guns on some of the Italian maps, but they're not the same as this one. I'm guessing whatever it is, it's to counter those boats in the water. This second image is, well, much less exciting. It's of the armoured train, but this time affixed with a snowplow on the front. Perhaps that's just a thematic change here for the DLC, but there's a heavy covering of snow in this image in comparison to the one we just looked at. Perhaps this is a map that takes place in the dead of winter, where the weather has really set in. Fighting against the Germans and the Austro-Hungarians in the snow could be a really, really awesome setting, and something that's been missing from Battlefield 1 so far. We don't have any snow maps at the moment. The third image, I think, is most interesting. We get to have a look at a lot more here. We've got a flatter area in the shadow of the hills behind, we've got a village on fire over to the side, and the cavalry soldiers roaring past. This bit again is mentioned in the description on the DICE website, and I think this is depicting the map that's set in Galicia with the Russian Hussars as part of the Brusilov offensive. This was a major attack planned by the Russians against the Austro-Hungarians and the Germans on the Eastern Front, and in many places it saw big Russian gains in territory. They were attacking the Austro-Hungarians to the south, and they were massively under-equipped, and they were attacking the Germans in the north, who had much stronger defences. If there is more open land here, then perhaps DICE might try and make use of those horses on this map. It'd be really cool to see a few more cavalry soldiers riding around and adding a different dynamic to the gameplay. And lastly, we've already seen this image, but I'd like to show it again. This was the image that was shown when DICE officially announced all of the DLC names for Battlefield 1. And I think it shows the Lupkow Pass, which was a very important railway connection through the Carpathian Mountains in World War I. It created a link between Galicia and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and that existed before the war, and then it became a vital thing for movement of troops and supplies during the war. You can see here the Russian cavalry soldier again, and more interestingly, what appears to be a Russian support soldier holding a brand new weapon. This, I think, is the Parabellum MG-14. It's a German machine gun that was primarily designed to be used in airplanes above the battle, but it did find its way into the hands of some ground soldiers too. Its rate of fire is between 600 and 700 rounds a minute, and that puts it somewhere between the MG-15 and the BAR. So it's going to be really interesting to see how DICE try and balance this one in. As for the rest of the image, we've got plains up top, a huge river down below in the ravine, the Lupkow Pass itself with the railway there and the tunnel, and of course the armoured train making an appearance. This one looks like an all-out Battlefield map. So that's the maps for the new DLC in the name of the Tsar. I just call it the Russian DLC because it's easier, but we've got a few other things to discuss in this video as well. First of all, DICE will be switching to monthly updates for Battlefield 1 from their older seasonal patches. Many players have complained that updates, new content and fixes have been too slow to arrive for the game, and DICE appear to have listened to us. Whether they've left it too late to speed up their delivery of new content remains to be seen, but it's awesome to hear that when we see updates and fixes in news posts, it's likely going to be coming to the game much faster. DLCs will still be a few months apart, but we should start to see a couple of updates in between each of those, delivering new features and content as well. Secondly, Platoons will be making the jump across from CTE into the main game very soon. If you missed my video on that, you can check it out down in the description, but that will be coming in what DICE is calling the Spring Update. Presumably, that's the last seasonal patch before they switch over to the monthly ones. And thirdly, DICE has said they've heard us loud and clear, and that there is still work to be done to make the game feel snappier and more responsive. Slow loading UI and in-game movements do still need some work for Battlefield 1, and the first monthly update coming in May, just a month from now, will hopefully address those issues. By the sounds of it then, the spring update should land sometime in April. So then, it does seem that DICE have heard our feedback and they're acting upon it, but thus far they've been a step behind when it comes to addressing that feedback with changes. Hopefully with that new monthly update cycle, we should see that disappear and look forward to a game that gets more updates more regularly to address concerns that might crop up. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of the Russian maps down below and the new weapon as well. I'll be down there reading as many as I can. But until next time, my name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.